Face it, Star Wars shouldn't have worked. It was a science fiction fairy tale made when Hollywood was cranking out gritty, character-driven dramas. It starred a handful of unknown actors and a man in a fursuit. It begins with 20 minutes of robots wandering through a desert. The main villain of the original trilogy is a space wizard. That sounds like a disaster, not the beginning of a multi-billion-dollar franchise. Yet, despite all odds, Star Wars didn't just clean up at the box office, it literally reinvented the entire Hollywood machine. And it came so close to never happening. Here's why. Flash of genius. Star Wars didn't spring fully formed from George Lucas's head. In fact, if Lucas had his way, he would have made an entirely different movie. As a child, Lucas loved the old Flash Gordon serials.
I wonder what happened to Dale and Dr. Zarkov.
No doubt my father is holding the prisoners.
After Lucas's debut, the cold and lifeless science fiction thriller THX 1138 failed to excite audiences and critics. Lucas wanted to make something with more heart, so he sought the rights to make a new Flash Gordon film. But Lucas ultimately couldn't seal the deal with King Features Syndicate, which published Alex Raymond's original comic strip and owned the rights to the character. So, fortunately for Star Wars fans, he decided to invent his own Flash Gordon-like saga.
Prepare my rocket fleet at once. We will go to the sky city of Fulton and teach him a needed lesson.
Studio resistance. While THX 1138 was a flop, Lucas's second feature, American Graffiti, was one of the most profitable movies of all time and a Best Picture nominee.
How'd you like to ride around with me for a while?
I'm sorry, I can't. I'm going steady.
Universal Pictures executives were delighted at the film's success and wanted more. Lucas, however, had his heart set on Star Wars and submitted a 12-page outline for the flick. The studio passed, and many of Lucas's friends and colleagues agreed, encouraging Lucas to make a deeper film, more grounded and serious. But Lucas wouldn't listen. Sci-fi dry spell. Universal isn't the only studio that passed on Star Wars. United Artists and Disney said no too, arguing that science fiction wasn't popular and wouldn't sell. After all, as Star Wars producer Gary Kurtz noted to IGN, it took 7 years for 1968's 2001: A Space Odyssey to turn a profit, and the last big space opera, 1956's Forbidden Planet, was almost 20 years old when Lucas was pitching Star Wars.
Well, you low-living contraption, I ought to take a can opener to you.
Quiet, please. I am analyzing.
When Lucas tried to explain to the studios that Star Wars is more fantasy than science fiction, the debate was lost on 20th Century Fox president Alan Ladd Jr., who just wanted Lucas, period.
He said, I don't understand this, but I loved American Graffiti and whatever you do is okay with me.
So, in 1973, Lucas finally inked a deal to write and direct Star Wars for Fox. Financial woes. Here's one of Star Wars' biggest secrets. It was not an expensive film. While Star Wars established a template for the expensive Hollywood blockbuster, its initial budget was relatively tiny. Fox gave Lucas and his crew just $8 million, but unfortunately that wasn't quite enough. When he asked for more, Fox shut down pre-production and forced the team to come up with a new budget, which came out to about $10 million. Lucas was forced to scrap a number of scenes, including Han Solo's confrontation with Jabba the Hutt, later controversially added via CGI to the special edition of the film.
Trouble in Tunisia.
Tatooine, Luke Skywalker's home planet, was originally supposed to be a jungle, but Lucas changed it to a desert planet after a location scout in the Philippines irritated his skin.
While Tatooine's twin suns setting over the dunes is one of the most iconic images in a franchise full of iconic images, Tunisia isn't the most hospitable environment for filmmaking, and the production fell behind immediately.
Allegedly, the sand didn't mix well with the cameras, damaging lots of expensive equipment. Windstorms ravaged the sets, and R2-D2's controls didn't work particularly well either, as the sand interfered with the remote radio signals. And then there was the weather. On the second day of shooting, a freak rainstorm, the first winter rain that the area had gotten in 50 years, made filming practically impossible. Delays almost spelled doom.
Thanks to the problems in Tunisia, Star Wars was behind schedule by the time the crew moved to England.
Unfortunately, things didn't get much better. Union rules severely limited when the cast and crew could work, and it didn't help that Lucas was still tweaking the script while filming, or that Lucas had to fire the film's original editor, meaning an hour's worth of footage had to be recut. Filming began in March 1976. By July, Lucas was 15 days behind schedule. Fox issued an ultimatum. Lucas had to finish the film in a week, or the studio was going to pull the plug. The studio almost buried it. While an early screening for studio executives went well, Fox wasn't sure how to sell Star Wars to the public, so they didn't. Instead, the studio put its marketing muscle behind The Other Side of Midnight, which was based on a best-selling novel and had a built-in audience. Meanwhile, theater owners thought that Star Wars was a kiddie movie and didn't want to screen it. So, in order to boost circulation, Fox forced theater chains that wanted The Other Side of Midnight to book Star Wars as well. As Star Wars broke record after record for both attendance and box office returns, Fox expanded into as many markets as possible. By September, Star Wars was in 1,100 theaters, an unheard of number at the time, and its first theatrical run lasted for over a year. By then, it was clear. Despite the odds, Star Wars was a hit, and Hollywood would never be the same. Thanks for watching. Click the looper icon to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Plus, check out all this cool stuff we know you'll love too.